We're going to talk about the heart embryology and what does every embryologic structure give rise to. So first, we're going to start this with this structure. So basically, it's if this is the head, it's above here, and these are the feet lower here, and this is the basic of the heart. So this is the anterior view, and let's say that this is the lateral view. So we have different days at different times, and 21 days, 22 days, and 24 days, 35 days, and 50 days. So basically, every colored part of this is gonna transform into something in the adult or end result or end version of the heart. So basically, we're gonna follow each color. So the first one is the first aortic arch. This is what it's called in day 22 of life. In uterine life. So the first aortic arch would go and become, by time, after 2 days, the aortic roots, and then it will keep developing until it gets to the point where it actually forms the final aortic arch, and of course its branches. So for the green color, the green piece is the bulbous cordis, and the bulbous cordis keeps progressing and moving. What needs to be known here is that the whole structure, this structure, whether it's the anterior face or like the lateral view of it, is basically going to rotate, like keep rotating. So the upper part, that is the red piece, this new kind of purple color and green, would go down. All of it would go down, and then the lower pieces would go up. So that's normal and expected in the developing embryo. So that's why their places keep changing in addition to their structural developments by time. So the green bulbous, which is called the bulbous cordis, as we can see, it goes over here by time, and then it becomes this piece. So what does it give rise to at the end? Bulbous cordis here gives rise to the smooth parts, that is the outflow tracts of the left and right ventricle. So each ventricular atrium is not made of only like one kind of tissue or one kind of appearance. It has different pieces probably collected together and making up that ventricle. So the bulbous cordis ends into some specific parts that are called smooth parts, not the trabeculated. So the contrary is the trabeculated. So here we have the smooth parts, that is the outflow tract of the left and right ventricle, and this is to be seen here. Actually, it involves both ventricles, not only one ventricle. So that's for the red color. That's for the green color. There's the kind of red color, that is the ventricle. So the ventricle keeps rotating as well, and it ends up being the final end result ventricle as well. We also have the blue, dark blue color here is sinus horn. So the sinus horn it has a lot of pieces. One of them is the atrium, the other one is the sinus venosus, and each one of those ends up, for example, the atrium keeps developing and rotating, and then it gets to become the right atrium, the final end results. And for the sinus venosus, it also keeps developing, and it becomes something else. There you go. The left horn of the sinus venosus ends up becoming the coronary sinus, while the right horn of sinus venosus becomes the smooth part of the right atrium. So, and we can tell here, of course, that there are like two horns of it. For the other blue color, that is the cardinal veins, they keep rotating, as we said, they keep moving, and they become the basic piece of the superior vena cava over here. We also have, like in day 24, some new structure that comes up, and it's called the Trunkus Arteriosus, and it keeps developing until it becomes the ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk. So its place actually makes sense. So this is the pulmonary trunk, over here, and this is the ascending aorta. So basically this page is only talking about what embryologic structures are and what do they give rise to. So quick recap here is the Trunkus Arteriosus becomes the ascending aorta and pulmonary trunk. The Bulbous Cordis end up being the smooth parts, that is the outflow tract of the left and right ventricle. The primitive ventricle becomes the trabeculated part. So this is different. The trabeculated parts of the left and right ventricles. So the ventricles is actually a collection of probably more than one piece. Each one has a unique description. Like one piece is called the smooth parts, and the other one is like trabeculated parts. For the primitive atrium, it ends up being the trabeculated part of left and right atria. So the same goes on for atria. It has trabeculated parts and the smooth parts. The left horn of the sinus venosus goes to be coronary sinus, and then the right horn of the sinus venosus ends up being the smooth parts of the right atrium. So it's called the sinus venarum. For endocardial cushion, the endocardial cushion is what we talked before about. That is this circle, this kind of half circle that keeps growing and then changing in shape until it becomes the septa. It creates some kind of septa between, there you go, endocardial cushion goes to become atrial septum, membranous interventricular septum, and then atrioventricular and semilunar valves as well. For the right common cardinal vein and right anterior cardinal vein. So we have multiple branches of the cardinal vein. So we have common cardinal vein, we have only right anterior cardinal vein, we have posterior cardinal, subcardinal, and supracardinal veins. So for the right common cardinal vein and right anterior cardinal vein, it ends up to be the superior vena cava, while the posterior cardinal veins, subcardinal veins, and supracardinal veins ends up to be inferior vena cava. For the primitive pulmonary vein, then it becomes the smooth part of the left atrium. Primitive pulmonary vein, smooth part of the left atrium. And this image probably has an easier, more concise way of explaining. The A is the Trunkus Arteriosus. It becomes the ascending aorta and slash the pulmonary trunk, while the Bulbous Cordis ends up being the smooth part of the left and right ventricles, the outflow tract specifically. Primitive ventricle ends up being the trabeculated left and right ventricles. The primitive atrium ends up being the trabeculated left and right atria, while the sinus venosus ends up being, for the left horn, ends up being coronary sinus, and